Entrepreneurship is the process of designing, launching, and running a business, and it's not an easy feat. A lot of people go into entrepreneurship because they want to be their own boss. That is great. However, it does mean that you are doing every facet of the organization when you're first launching and starting off quite regularly you're not working 40-hour work weeks, you're working beyond that. And then you get to a point eventually where you can select your own schedule. But it's really important that the entrepreneur knows every touch point of the organization, whether it's from an employee perspective or a customer perspective or a supplier perspective or an accounting perspective. It's really important that they understand to some certain capacity every single functional area of the business. The entrepreneur is a person who sets up a business who has the intention of making profit. A business is an organization or an economic system where goods and services are exchanged for money. But before we launch a business plan is what is most important. And this is a document setting out a business's future objectives and strategies for achieving them. There is this misconception that a business plan is a one-time document that people just put together for funding. This is a living and breathing document that grows along with you. Just like your children, you don't birth them and then you leave them to the side, although sometimes we wonder, but you carry them along, you nurture them, you grow them, and you're constantly comparing, are they developing at the rate that I want them to? And your business plan is essentially the same thing. This is your roadmap for your business. Am I making the goals that I wanted to for my first year? Am I comparing and contrasting the actuals of that? Am I making the dollars and profits I thought? Where am I on my expenses? Did this marketing strategy work? It didn't. Why not? So this is why a business plan's really important. I have a lot of people that come to me and they're like, oh, I don't want to put the work into it, but I got it all up in my head. That's great. But sometimes when we get it all out of our head and onto a piece of paper, it creates a life form of its own. And one thing that a business plan will do is we might not know how to get from here to Sault Ste. Marie, for example, at night, even worse. But if we put on a business plan, these are our headlights, and we can see as we are creeping the progress of our journey. And that's what a business plan is as well. But it's really important that a business owner knows all the fundamental business components that make up the business. Do they have to be strong in all those areas? No, not at all. But a good entrepreneur knows where their weaknesses are and where they lack, and they fill in their holes with partners or like partnerships within the business or subject matter experts in the industry that can contribute to that too. It's best that you delegate and be prepared to pay for those costs associated with that. So what is business planning? It is the who, what, when, where, why of a business. So when you have a business idea, that is the time to actually conceptualize that into a formal plan. It will help you determine what the objectives and the strategy are. The who of the business plan, there's two main who's you need to figure out. There is the business and who you are as a business, and then your customers, who will you serve? You've got to think of all the major key players, or what we call stakeholders, that will be contributing to the who's of your organization. That could be the owners, that could be personnel that you hire, that could be advisors that contribute to different functional areas of your business. It could be the customers. Remember, the customer will be your key on knowing whether or not your business idea is viable or not. What the competition's doing, and how to react to that and pivot your business. The other who's that you need to be respectful for might not necessarily just be customers and suppliers and employees. It might be government inspectors that are coming through that might not necessarily spend money in your organization or work for you, but are owed a certain level of information and respect when they come on there too. It could be a stakeholder, people that live around the area of a manufacturing site, for example, needs to be taken into consideration. So it's really important to know who the stakeholders that have touch points with the organization are and how you can address their needs. The what's are who will you offer, what will you offer to your consumers, and what will make your company different. We call that a value proposition. We understand there's going to be a competition. What are you going to do for your business that sets you above the rest? Okay, Home Depot, we know Lowe's is just down the street. We know you guys have essentially the same products and services offerings. What is the value proposition that sets you above the rest, for example? And usually through a SWOT analysis, which we'll get to in the future, you can get to know your competition intimately and be able to respond to the gaps they might not be addressing. And that could be your personal value proposition for your business. What do you want to achieve? What is your sustainable advantage? The where's your business located? Location, believe it or not, is really important and needs to be acknowledged when you're trying to create your geographical location for your business. And in some aspects, like a digital business, for example, it's not important at all. But where is your target audience? You need to know where they're residing, how to advertise to them, how to educate them, how to capture their attention. Where are the new opportunities located? How do you get from where you are now to where you want to be from a business strategic perspective? And your business plan allows you to do that. It allows you to revisit things 6 months, a year, 2 years down, see how far you've come and how much you've accomplished. When do you meet your particular goals? What do you plan on doing in year 1? What do you plan on doing in year 2? What do you plan on doing in year 5, in year 10? When will your business start? When will you open those doors? Really important for marketing and for suppliers as well. The whys, why are you in business? Why would consumers want to purchase your products and services from you? So all these questions need to be addressed, and you as an entrepreneur need to be prepared with the necessary information that will be contributed through this comprehensive business plan. So this is everything that is your methods and practice and tools and techniques that will take this business idea and all this content you have in your head and make it come to life. So business planning is the process of determining an enterprise's objectives, strategies, and projected actions in order to promote its survival and development within the marketplace. Business planning is usually outlined in a document known as a business plan.
EP Plans explains, what is a business plan? In order to know what a business plan is, you have to know what a business plan isn't. A business plan isn't a document that you write once and never look at again. In fact, it doesn't have to be a document at all. But it's also not a bunch of scribbles and buzzwords you wrote on the back of a napkin at happy hour with your friends. Business plans aren't just for loan applications, they're not just for first-time startups, and they're not just for business school students. And most importantly, a business plan doesn't have to follow a one-size-fits-all formula. So let's talk about what a business plan is. A business plan is living and breathing, able to change and be flexible. Any startups or existing businesses can and should make use of a business plan. In its simplest form, a business plan is a guide that outlines goals for your business and how you plan to reach them. It contains an overview of your business strategy, milestones to track tasks and responsibilities, and the basic financial projections you need to forecast your sales, expenses, and cash flow. A standard or traditional business plan typically includes an executive summary, products and services, a market analysis summary, a strategy and implementation summary, a company and management summary, a financial plan, and maybe an appendix. To see a detailed business plan outline, click the link in the description below. Here are some common questions to consider before you start writing your business plan. First, how long should your plan be? Your business plan can be as long or as short as you need it to be. It just has to outline your goals and be able to change when new data comes in. It can be a dozen pages long, or you can boil it down to just 1 page, but shorter, more concise business plans are usually the best way to communicate your vision and goals. If you're hoping to secure a bank loan or other type of funding, you may be asked for a more detailed document, but that will be easier to do once you have the essential elements in place. Next, who is a business plan for? A business plan is for whoever you need to see it. It can be an internal document that you show to employees, co-founders, or others inside the company to help them catch the vision and understand your strategy. It can also be used externally to show potential investors, future employees, or possible partners what you're planning to do, why you're doing it, and how you're going to succeed. Can you write a business plan on your own? Absolutely. Although advisors and templates can help you avoid writer's block and keep your momentum going. At B-Plans, we have a business plan template you can download for free. Or, you could just wing it, I guess. So what do you do with a business plan when you're done? You should review it regularly. Your business plan should be dynamic. You should revise it when new data comes in. In fact, when businesses plan and then track their performance against the plan, they can grow up to 30% faster than their competitors. Seriously. So that's what a business plan is, but we didn't even get to all the reasons why you write a plan. Don't worry, we'll have a video on that soon. If you want to learn more about business planning, visit bplans.com and download our free business plan template or our one-page business pitch. Remember, writing a business plan won't automatically catapult you into fame and fortune, but it can set the foundation for your company's future.
So why is your business plan necessary? It is basically your blueprint or your map, your roadmap, as I referred to it early, for the owner to guide and measure progress towards goals. So at one point, you will have to probably do an income statement that you anticipate for the first year and a cash flow statement. And what's great is once you actually open your doors and you start making money, you can compare and contrast. For the month of January, did I make my goal here? And it also will allow you for year two. Well, if I made this much for year one, maybe I want to increase my goals from here for 10%. I want to make 10% more. This is what your business plan is for. Externally, most financial institutions require a business plan before they are willing to lend you money. And I'd like to say there's levels of business plans. I know a lot of people have gotten used to this 2-page CV, for example. The 2-3-page business plan is great for certain scenarios and particular situations. For our board of directors, our outline is great, and it entails enough content that our board needs to review our financing applications. Because as some of you may or may not know, the SLBDC also provides financing opportunities. And regardless of whether you are coming to us for a loan for either startup or expansion, your counseling comes for free, regardless of whether or not you're looking for funding. So please know our services are still able to be utilized regardless if you're coming to us for a loan. If you are approaching a financial institution for any funding, they will require almost a higher level, a more detailed business plan than what we would look for. If you are applying for a government grant, those are few and far between. They are very difficult to get. And when the grant comes through, almost view it as a checklist. Your business plan needs to meet every single part of that criteria in that grant application. So your business plan needs to reflect that as well. So it requires a higher level of detailed business plan. So depending on the funding, depending on what you're looking for investors, will determine the level of content required for a business plan. It doesn't hurt to have too much information, but please appreciate some stakeholders will only read portions of your business plan anyways. Some want to see the whole thing because they want to see where all the dots connect. A lender will want to know how their loan will be secured and a realistic cash flow statement. Secured meaning, are you able to pay them back? And they might ask for something called security or collateral. They also want to see in the cash flow statement that you are going to be making enough even after the offset of expenses in order to sustain that loan. You need to have in detail how the loan will be paid back and what the projected rate of return is. All that information will be in the loan agreement. And sometimes a venture capitalist will probably require even more detailed information, such as liquidating ownership. So these are the different components that we are looking at in each week's. We've broken this down so it's more manageable. 1 week we'll look at objectives and strategy. 1 week we'll look at accounting and financing. And what's nice is we will just look at that content so it doesn't become overwhelming. Internal factors to your business will be anything within house. So that will be your employees. That would be your inventory, for example. There is something called external forces. This is outside of your organization, things that you cannot control, but you need to be able to respond to. Sociocultural forces, any changes with your customer, for example, their preferences and their tastes. For example, when the Atkins diet came out, people stopped eating bagels, God forbid. But that was a sociocultural force external to the bagel factory that needed to be responded to, and a business needed to be able to pivot, like cream cheese, for example. So cream cheese, without the residual demand of bagels, needed to find a new opportunity to reposition themselves in the market. What did Philadelphia cream cheese do? They went to YouTube, went to see what chefs were doing with their cream cheese products online, boom and bang. Next thing came up with cream cheese sauces. So this is why you need to know those external forces like the sociocultural dynamics. Another one we're going to be looking at is the technological impacts from outside your organization that will be impacting you inside, for example. Economically, a lot of economists are using an R word that we don't want to say, but we might have to say recession. From an economic perspective, if our economy goes through a recession, how is your business prepared to respond to that? And some businesses, I just want you to know, actually a lot of the Fortune 500 businesses that actually are still successful today, believe it or not, guys, launched during poor and struggling economic times. One of them being Disney. Netflix, another one. So these businesses still thrive during poor economic times, but they had in the back of their mind, in their strategic business plan, how they would respond to that. Things they couldn't control. Political and regulatory, government lockdowns. During COVID and the pandemic, a lot of these businesses experienced lockdowns that they could not, no matter how much they protested, and they were desperate to have the customers in their doors, the government said, no, we are not operating. So you as a business, what are you going to do? You can't just stick your head in the sand and pretend like the storm's just going to pass. That's not how business works. So from a political and regulatory perspective, how can you react? And the big thing from an external forces perspective that needs to be acknowledged, a famous saying, keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. Your competitive analysis. I worked with a local business about a year ago, and this person didn't know where their pricing strategy was in comparison to their competition. And this person was a single mom, overwhelmed, didn't have a lot of time. She's like, I don't have time for a business plan. And I said, well, no, you do. You got to set time aside for it. But one thing I want you to do is an hour before bed every night, look at your competition's website. Take one every night, get to know them inside and out. Who are their employees? What is their business arrangement? How many years have they been in? Do they have any key suppliers that give them great deals? That sort of thing. That by knowing that information, you can create a hole for yourself in the market that says, well, this competition's not acknowledging this, but we can acknowledge it here, which could be how your business idea even came about. But your competitive analysis is going to be very, very important from an external forces. Don't be overwhelmed. We will be looking at these deeper as we break down our sessions in the future. Again, we have a marketing person, Martin Vrolik, who is Campfire Media, very well respected in the community, worked with the radio station in the marketing department. He will be giving you your session on marketing. When it comes to accounting and finance, an accountant, Kelly Hill, and small business owner of Blue Water Virtual Business Solutions will be participating in that one, and Lisa Isaac from an HR and operations management perspective as well. Things that you need to start wrapping your head around and considering. The legal structure of the business. I will be actually addressing this later in the presentation today, what the differences are between a sole proprietor, a partnership, and a corporation. One general rule of thumb, look at your industry. How is your competition structured? If your competition is structuring that way, then you should probably as well. What are your business objectives? Mission statements, vision statements for starting your business. This content will be part of your business description. It will also become probably part of your executive summary. Stakeholders to your organization, how are you going to address them? From a pricing perspective, from a legal perspective, different occupants to your property, for example, will be needing different levels or duty of care. Customers need to be addressed, suppliers, employees, and the community as a whole. And SWOT analysis. When it comes to the SWOT analysis, you will need to do that for your competition. Where's your competition strong? What is their weakness? And out of that comes opportunities and threats as well. Again, we will be looking at that a little bit deeper in the weeks to come. So what is a business plan? It is comprised of a cover page. If you have a logo, that would be great and look shiny and fancy. We will be addressing a cover page, an executive summary, table of contents, and appendices in the last session. Executive summary is done very, very last. It is basically your movie trailer for your movie, which is your business plan. Your executive summary will have key captured points in a one-page review, and you want to get the audience, you want to draw them in. So this is, like I said, your opportunity to wow them with your movie trailer and get them more engaged in reading more with your document. We'll talk about the business description. How'd you come up with your business idea? Is there seasonal trends of your business? What does your business arrangement look like? Is it a sole proprietorship, for example? What's your mission statement? Then we'll talk about business objectives. What are your goals for year 1, year 2, year 5? What is the market description? I just described that to you. This is everything outside of the organization that you cannot control, but you need to be able to respond to. And the more you plan for it, the better. I teach my business law students at the college, just because you purchase car insurance doesn't mean it guarantees that you're going to get into a car accident. It just means that extra layering of protection is there in case you need to respond accordingly to that. And that's what your business plan is there for, the external forces too. The marketing strategy, product, place, price, promotion. What does your pricing strategy look like compared to your competitions? Are you going to make enough money? Are you breaking even? What are you going to do to promote from a public relations and PR perspective? Are you going to buy ad time with your radio? Is that where your customer occupies? Are they even listening to the radio? These are the things that we'll be discussing in marketing strategy. Place, promotion, price. With the operations, human resources, what to consider for hiring, job descriptions, legislatively, what do you need to know about your employees? Who are your advisors? Is there any key secrets that need to be part of the operations as well? The financial plan, again, we'll be taking this as the second last session. There will just be a focus on the income statements, the balance sheets, and the cash flow statements. Something to become familiar with. And an accountant is always a very good idea to have on your team as well. And appendices. So in this, you will have resumes of key players in your organizations. You will have any certifications that you received that would contribute to your business. This is where you would put a sample of an ad. If you did primary research for your market survey, a sample of your, you want to put your tabulation and your data and results in your business plan, but the actual survey itself should be included in the appendices as well. So this is what we're going to be doing over the next few weeks. Module 1, which is tonight, and Module 7, we will address the cover page, what you should have in terms of a business name, the address of the business, and a company logo or a sample of a ad would be brilliant right here. We will be, what we're doing tonight is basically coming up with the information from it, but you don't have to have like a business name until the very end. Don't sweat that. Module 7 will be doing the executive summary. As mentioned, the executive summary is done very, very last. It is a summary of main facts and plans. This is my business idea. I anticipate to make this much money. I need this for financing is basically what the executive summary is. The very last session will be covering all the table of contents. Yes, please number your pages. Again, do this very last. Not every stakeholder is going to read the entire document. Some may just want to see portions of it and they want to be able to jump there effectively. So table of contents, having your pages numbered and footers on that as well. You also want to give disclaimers of things like confidentiality along with that. Module 1, we're going to briefly talk about the business description in your worksheet. What products and services are you offering? What is your type of business? For example, is it business to consumer? Is it business to business? Is it a service? Is it manufacturing? Is it retail? What is the status of your business? What is it, a startup? Is it an expansion? Most of you will be startups. Actually, you all will be startups. The ownership structure. So is it a sole proprietorship? Is it a partnership? Is it a co-op? Is it a franchise? Is it sole proprietor, partnership, corporation, for example? Week and the week after, we'll be discussing what objectives and goals are important for your business. And you'll be educated on SMART. SMART, it stands for specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. And we'll be creating short and long-term goals for your business. We will also be discussing the outside environment, competition, what your target market looks like. Some of you might be an industrial market, so you're selling business to business versus business to the final consumer. We'll also be talking about the final consumer market and what market research should be done from a secondary and a primary perspective. Module 4 or week 4, we'll be discussing marketing. Module 5, just operations on personnel, advisors, suppliers, equipment, and facilities. That will be the bulk from Lisa Isaac from an HR perspective, looking at all facets of HR. Week 6, we'll be discussing financing requirements, sources of financing. I'll be giving a brief presentation on our financing options with the Sarnia-Lambton Business Development Corporation, business collateral and personal collateral, and what's required for sources of financing and how to do financial statement projections, cash flow statements, income statements, and balance sheet statements. Kelly Hill will be giving that presentation. And the final week, we'll be discussing the legal environment surrounding businesses and what the appendices should entail. So key tips to be getting the most of your business plan or creating a business plan. Number 1, look at other business plans. That doesn't hurt. The overall approach, the level of detail, the articulated mission statement. This is a task I have my students do in my entrepreneurship class. Look at Pepsi's mission statement. Look at a business similar to yours. What is their mission statement? We'll be looking at mission statements in the weeks to come and how to develop that. So what is your overall approach? What's the level of detail? What are the specific products and services your plan will be discussing? Bullet number 2, be prepared and do your homework. Research everything thoroughly. Compare and contrast the validity of the information, the content. One thing about the internet is sometimes facts can be fake news, as we know, as we've heard from certain politicians. But it's really important to have facts and evidence substantiating your work. It's like your statistic teachers said, well, I want the answer, but I want to see all your work too. We do too when it comes to your business plan. And yes, it will require a lot of work. Primary research is any research you've done on your own. Secondary research is any research that you've done from a secondary source. There is an expectation to do both for this to make sure, not just for the investors and the lenders, but for yourself, that this is a viable business opportunity and that you will make money doing it. You will lose credibility. You will reduce the confidence in the readers or the stakeholders if you cannot support your claims. Number 3, know your target market and your competition. You need to figure out how to beat them or compete with them. Competition is inevitable. Market research is very important here. A detailed target market analysis is very credible and shows that the owner is better prepared to launch their business and make money over long term. Number 4, your table of contents is your friend. Take time, make sure that it covers all the relevant topics. The segregated sections make it easy for the stakeholder who needs to review the document, be able to navigate where they need to be efficiently through the document, and bypassing information that may be not pertinent to them. Bullet number 5, don't give away your secrets when sharing a business plan. You might have people like landlords, for example, looking at your business plan. Have a non-disclosure agreement or a confidentiality agreement available. It does not necessarily mean you need to secure a lawyer in order to do that. You can get a template from online. Whoever reads it should be signing this document. Anybody that you deal with, Sarnia Lambton Business Development Corporation has signed a confidentiality agreement with their employment contract. So anything that we discuss will be confidential and remain within us. But people might want to review these. For example, the landlord, they might want to see your plan prior to lease arrangements to make sure that it doesn't contradict any property violations, like restrictive clauses, for example, in a lease arrangement. It's important to make sure that they keep it secret and have all the parties sign the agreement who's being exposed to this document. The way I talk about intellectual property with my law students is it's like toothpaste in a toothpaste tube. Once you push it all out, you can't put it back in. And that's like secrets. Once it's out there and it's exposed, you can't really retract it, and it'll cost you a lot of money in court suing for it. A lawyer can assist in this process, but like I said, there's templates online. You don't want any of the facts that is in your document misrepresented by any potential investors or partners. Point number 6, write a strong executive summary. It's designed to capture readers' attention and give you an opportunity to briefly explain your business, the problem that you are solving, the target market, and any key financial projections. A brief mission statement can be featured here as well. If it lacks specific information, stakeholders may not continue reading the other sections. Just like if your movie trailer wasn't strong, you might not watch the movie. And we've seen these movie trailers where all the best parts were in there and not in the movie itself. So you want to beg them to read more, but you don't want to give it all up in the executive summary as well. Number 7, know your audience. Answer the question, who will be reading your plan? Anticipate questions people will want answered and be able to answer those questions. Show that you have thought through your business idea clearly, know what your value proposition is, and have a developed plan to develop your business idea into a sustainable and profitable business. Number 8, make sure that the business plan is readable. Make it compelling, interesting, informative, and exciting. Make sure it includes detail, but not too much that people will be overwhelmed. So for example, technical terms should be used sparingly. If you are using very technical terms, be prepared to describe that a little bit easier for somebody that might not know that content reading it. Make sure that you edit any spelling, punctuation, grammar, and voice. We do not do that with at the SLBDC. I've been asked many times. It would be nice. Just get a second pair of eyes to give you constructive feedback, or somebody else that will give you constructive criticism as to how it looks and how it reads. And don't be too stingy with charts or graphics, illustration, and tables. That effectively is what the appendices is for if it becomes too content heavy within the business plan. Number 9, use pro formas wisely. Stakeholders will want to see your performance, your costs, and your anticipated growth. But they know when numbers have been arrived and based on real data versus simply made up. Show your best, worst, and most likely scenarios for sales, expenses, and growth. We'll talk about that in the second last section. And number 10, keep it simple. Keep the language simple, use readable fonts, and a clean layout. Again, we stress that you use the SLBDC template, please. And remember that most people do not invest in a plan, they invest in a person. So let your passion and personality show. So your business plan is a living document, important for not only you as a business owner, but investors as well. So this is your, effectively, your worksheet number 1 that was submitted to you. This is what you can fill out. Again, this doesn't need to be done until the very last. So what is your business name? If you don't have one that you're stuck to, that's okay. But have an idea of a business plan, hopefully towards the end. Where is it located? Again, in order to be supported by the Sarnia-Lambton Business Development Corporation, it needs to be established in the Sarnia-Lambton area. What's your telephone number? What's your email? What is your proposed start date of your business? And fill that in. Remember that September 30th, 2023 is the latest date you can be opening. How many employees do you anticipate to hire? No, you don't necessarily have to have people assigned to those roles. Just have an idea. And one way to do that is have an organizational breakdown structure. Go to Indeed. I need this person with this job description. I need this many people. And just have an idea. How is your business structured? Sole proprietorship, partnership, corporation. We'll be discussing that. There's different perks and there's different misfortunes that come with each structure. There's also different tax implications as well. And that can be better described during the financial period that we talk about it in works in week 6. So let's start looking at the business arrangement. You might have already considered what business arrangement you're going with. So we'll look at some key ones. Sole proprietorship is the first one. That is a business owner that is using a name that is very similar to theirs. Even if they have a different business name to their personal name, they need to check whether or not that business name is available. And we will talk about that in the weeks to come. When you are a sole proprietor, you are part of the business of the agency of the business. And what that means is the business is personally, liability, and otherwise connected to the business itself. It is not a separate legal entity like a corporation, for example. So because there is a direct correlation between the business and the business owner, there are certain ramifications associated with that. Advantages of sole proprietorships: it's really easy to start your business and end it. If you wanted to open your doors tomorrow and get your business license, you can do that, for example. You don't need to ask anybody else. You don't need to register with the government other than registering for your business license. That's a sole proprietorship. When it comes to taxes, it comes out onto your personal income taxes. Because again, your business is attached to the identity of that person. Sole proprietorship is great because you get to be your own boss. You don't need to talk to anybody else if you don't want to. You don't need to review decisions with anybody else. It is you. You choose your own hours. You have the pride of ownership. This is your baby. You've built this with your own blood, sweat, and tears. You have the opportunity to leave a legacy and an accomplishment. And some people, it's not just the money, it's that status that they're looking. With a sole proprietorship, you get to retain all the profit and there's no special taxes. Again, the tax time is reported on your personal income taxes. Now, there are some disadvantages with sole proprietorships. There is unlimited liability. When it comes to these business arrangements, guys, there is 3 different questions that need to be asked. One is about profit distribution. The other is about liability and debt distribution. The third is decision making. And I'll get to that when I start talking about partnerships. But with sole proprietorships, it's great because you can make your own decisions. You don't need to ask anybody else. But you will have unlimited liability. Because that person is directly connected to the business, then they are they're liable for everything that that person is connected to. With sole proprietorships, there was limited financial resources because when it comes to financing requirements, you have one person that's contributing financially to that. So whatever that one person brings, whether it's a credit card, whether it's a home, for example, they have limited financial resources. Now, that one person manages all the functional areas of the business, and that could be very, very difficult, especially if it's an area that the entrepreneur is not strong in. It can be an overwhelming time commitment because everything is on the entrepreneur's shoulders. There's few fringe benefits when starting out. There's limited growth because you are only left to whatever, however people you have or money you have, and there's a limited lifespan, meaning that the as long as the entrepreneur is healthy and alive, the business will be healthy and alive. It's very important that a sole proprietor considers a succession plan. Frequently over the past year, I've been called by either family members, like a spouse or a child of a business owner that unexpectedly passed, and now they don't know what to do with the business, and there was no continuation plan. So as a sole proprietor, especially if your family is depending on it, there should be some sort of succession plan that goes with that, because the business is only as healthy and alive as the owner and the entrepreneur is. A partnership is a legal form of business ownership with 2 or more people. There are some advantages to partnership and there's some disadvantages. Again, with partnerships, there is no separation of legal entity from the business. So the partners are dedicated directly to the business. It's important to note too, guys, that partners have a fiduciary relationship to each other as well. Partners are basically joint at the hip. Any decision making, any profits, they need to openly communicate. They need to make sure all the parameters are covered for that decision making. There is a layering of dynamics that's more so with partnerships than sole proprietorships. More financial resources, you have multiple people contributing, multiple heads. They have different income opportunities, different financing sources. The more heads are better than one in this case for coming up with that financial recruitment. There are shared management and pooled skills of knowledge because you have multiple facets being covered, multiple personalities, multiple communication styles, multiple learning styles. They all bring something to the table. And I always have told my students, when we're talking about partnerships, know where your weaknesses are as an entrepreneur. If you need that weakness filled in, make sure that partner reflects where that hole is, and vice versa, to make sure that it's not great if you have 2 partners that excel in marketing and no one in HR, for example. So if somebody excels in marketing, you should fill in that gap somewhere else with something else. So you have shared management, you have more opportunities for skills and knowledge. There's a longer survival. If one partner passes, for example, the business can continue with the other partner, provided that all the structure is put in place for that other partner to continue. Again, a succession plan is very important in partners. on what to do with the business after a partner, for example, unexpectedly passes away. And most partnership agreements will discuss that, and I will talk about that in a little bit. There's a shared risk. Now there's multiple people to pay a lawsuit, for example, versus just one, like in a sole proprietorship. And I have seen businesses that have gone under as a result of a lawsuit where there was a tort violation significant enough that it was a fatality. This happened in Calgary. It was a tent rental company. One of their workers was impaled with one of their poles, and the business went under because of the lawsuit the family, the surviving family members pursued the business with. So with partners, what the courts like to do, I'll be honest, is go after the person with the deepest pockets. But there is that shared risk. With partnerships, there is no special taxes. Again, taxes will be reflected on personal income tax time on each of the partners' personal income tax statements. Disadvantages of partnerships, again, because the individuals, the partners, are directly connected to the business, there is unlimited liability. When it comes to a disadvantage, the division of profits, it's very difficult to delegate the division of profits. Some partners want to do it based on their personal contribution or investment. Others are like, well, I'm doing more of the decision making. I'm doing more of the management. I should probably get more of the money. Division of the profits can be very dicey and difficult when it comes to partnerships. If there's a disagreement among partners, that could create an impasse. For example, maybe your business needs a new van. One partner believes, yeah, we should buy the new van. We got the liquid equity in order to contribute to that. And one partner is saying, no, we're heading for a recession. I don't think we should spend the money. So you will have a disagreement. Again, a partnership agreement, which I'll talk to you about in a little bit, will mitigate some of these issues. Difficult to terminate. If one person wants to bail, for example, and the other doesn't, well, how do you mitigate that? And longer decision-making processes. A sole proprietor, if they wanted a new van for their business, can go out that day and purchase it. For partners, they really need to be respectful to each other and okay these decisions. It's like if you're in a marriage, for example, a certain dollar amount needs to be okayed. You don't show up driving a new car. A general partnership, there's different forms of partnership. A general partnership is a partnership where all the owners share in operating the business and assuming liability for the business's debts. So 50-50 distribution if there's two partners of profits, 50-50 of the decision making, 50-50 of the any of the debt or the liability associated with the business. A limited partnership, for example, is a partner with one or more general partners, meaning that somebody in the organization has more ownership or more stake or percentage of ownership in the business versus another one. Maybe partner A has 80% of the business and partner B has 20% of the business. Again, profits should be 80% distributed, then 20. Liability and debt decision-making as well. But there has been lawsuits that have went through the court system, just to let you know, that when decision-making went beyond that 20%, let's say for partner B, and it went to 50%, and that led to a lawsuit, then that person, regardless of what their capital investment was, saw 50% of the lawsuit. And let's say the other partner, for example, is on a beach somewhere when this incident happened. They are still vicariously liable regardless of whether they were there when the incident happened. Again, because of the fiduciary relationship that the partners have to each other. A limited partner is an owner who invests money in the business but does not have management responsibility or liability for losses beyond the investment. Now, I have had multiple parties come to me with an idea of a partnership. Either they have their romantic interest in mind or their best friend. I've even seen moms in these partnerships that when the deal came about, it either did not come to fruition or they couldn't agree and most went solo. A partnership agreement is very important in these situations. There's not a lot of legislation protecting the sole proprietor. There's a little bit for partnerships, a lot for corporations. A partnership agreement isn't something that has to be in writing. It is not covered under the statute of frauds for Canada. You do not need to have this document in writing. However, with that being said, if it goes to court, you want to bring as much proof and evidence as possible to the courts. And having an actual agreement in place as to the structure of your relationship will save you time and money in the court system. It also might even mean you might not even end up in court because the agreement will be the document the judge will refer to. So what should that agreement look like? It should have the duration and the responsibilities of each partner within the organization. It also should have a dispute resolution procedure to make sure that, for example, if there is two partners and they agree to disagree, how to get through that impasse. Is there a mediation process that we need to look at? Is it arbitration, for example, if we want to dissolve the partnership? Again, you can put as much into this document as possible. It is the document that is aligning the roles and the responsibilities for each party. Believe me, having some roommates in university, I wish I would have had one of these agreements, so I didn't get stuck scrubbing the toilet all the time, and then the other one wasn't stuck stealing my food all the time. This aligns everyone's roles and responsibilities on what their expectations are and what the promises are, and that they're upheld to those promises. If you wanted to withdraw out of the business or the partnership, or let's say you wanted to pass the partner on to your child, how does adding and withdrawing look like? What is that process? What is that procedure? What is the amount of the initial investment that each one is contributing to? Because coming out of it, some people might want to see that, maybe even more than that, if that is available at the end. What is the division of profit and loss and decision-making? Again, these three criteria, very, very important. Distribution of assets if the business dissolves, and any succession planning if somebody got sick or if somebody passed away. What does that continuation of the business look like? Cooperatives, I don't see very often, to be honest with you, although I did have one bubbling under the surface. A cooperative is an organization that is owned by members and customers who pay an annual membership fee and share in any profits. Hosteling International, for example, is a cooperative. Mountain Equipment Co-op, one of my favorites from when I lived in Calgary, that was a cooperative as well. Cooperatives differ from other businesses in that they have a different purpose, a control structure, and allocation of profit. Each member only has one vote, where in a corporation, each voting share has a vote. Corporation is the last legal entity that we're going to look at because franchising is not an opportunity for the Business Boost bundle. Corporation, in order to incorporate your business, you need to select a business name. You need to make sure that that business name is available. You can do a Google search or what we call a nuance search, NUANS. That it costs approximately $15 Canadian. It's an expense that you can write off. It will determine whether that name is available or not, because you don't want to get a cease and desist letter from another organization saying, hey, you stole our business name. Even if it's similar, yes, that can lead to some legal hot water. We don't talk a lot about intellectual property in these sessions, but if you want to know more about trademark, patent, industrial designs, and copyright, please feel free to reach out to me. It's something that I teach regularly about as well. When you are developing the share structure and directors and the restrictions on shares transfers, you need to determine who gets what payouts, for example. When do they get paid out? A lawyer, you don't need a lawyer to register a corporation. However, with that being said, it's best to have a lawyer there because they know all the intricacies of registering a corporation. Do not go to a family law lawyer to register this, even if it's your cousin that owes you a favor. It's best to go to a corporate lawyer or a business lawyer because they understand all the parameters associated with this. It's a very tedious process. The corporation should describe the company's operations and how they acquire necessary supplies. Corporations have to keep their books at the place of business. Now, a corporation, guys, is different than a sole proprietorship and a partnership. A corporation is a separate legal entity to the people that comprise the board of directors and the shareholders. The board of directors has a fiduciary relationship to the shareholders, but let's say there's a lawsuit that comes down the pipeline. That business can only be sued for how much money is in the corporation. It cannot come after the individuals that might be running the organization. Now they can, but you guys don't want to stay here for a boring corporate law lesson about the identification theory. It's very infrequent. The main notable thing between a sole proprietorship and a partnership and a corporation is a corporation is a separate legal entity. The individuals that are running it are not connected. Therefore, they cannot be sued if the business gets sued. So for an advantage of a corporation, you have a limitation of liability. They can only sue to a certain dollar amount. Because it's a corporation, I even saw grants that were specific for a corporation last year that kind of upset me because I find that's segregation. And corporations, because of the structure associated with them, they do yield a little bit more confidence. They have a perpetual life that can live. It doesn't matter whether an owner or a CEO passes away or jumps ship, for example, that continues regardless of the individuals running it. There's an ease of ownership change, well, depending on the corporation's documents, an ease of drawing talented employees, and a separation of ownership from management. Now with corporate, there is some disadvantages. The CRA reporting is more frequent than with sole proprietorships or partnerships. CRA reporting is more on a monthly basis. You do not report and you don't disclose your income statement and balance sheet, you could lose your corporation status. Sometimes it can be taxed heavily. Difficulty of determination, sometimes the size makes it they're usually substantially large and hard to control. You could have conflicts between the shareholders and the board of directors, and the cost for registering a corporation is high. When I registered my corporation 3 years ago, it cost me $1,800 to have the name searched, to make sure it was available, to get the articles of incorporation together. And the process took approximately a month. But it was more cost effective to do it through the lawyer because they know all the intricacies associated with that. On your business sheet, you are going to want to describe who owns the business, who is the owner, and who's key management personnel. This cannot be confused with operations. In operations, you're not going to say, I have this person I'm going to hire to be my front desk person, or I'm going to hire this person to be my media relations specialist. You are, for your operations section, going to go to Indeed. This is my job role. It is for full-time or part-time. This is my job description, and it is for this either hourly wage or salary. You're not going to put key people in those roles. But at this point, you want to talk a little bit about the owner and what they bring to the table. What is the qualifications, background, experience, education, strengths and weaknesses of the management team? And talk about the key people that are leading your team. Any certifications, any diplomas, degrees, you should copy these and include them along with the appendices, the resumes in the appendices section. This is a really important one, guys, that a lot of people haven't addressed: succession planning. If a business owner gets sick or dies or decides to retire, what does that business look like? Who is going to be succeeding it? What are the processes? What are the tasks that are going to be done? I had a grieving widow that didn't even know her husband hadn't paid any remittances and they owed the government. He unexpectedly passed away. All of this information is very, very important to have contained somewhere so all the appropriate parties can be addressed respectfully. Now, this isn't required right now, guys. I know it's on your Module 1 sheet. But I want you to take into consideration professional advisors that you will probably need on your team. An accounting firm is very important, especially when you're filing your taxes. And having a good relationship with your accountant is very important. So you want to talk to somebody that's going to not just deal with your tax time. Financial statements, cash flow statements, income statements, balance sheets should be documents that are reviewed regularly, not just by the accountant, but the business owner, and they should be walking you through these statements. It's also worth noting that if you do get financing through the Sarnia Lambton Business Development Corporation, that you are expected as part of your loan agreement to contribute monthly submissions of cash flow or balance sheets and income statements as well. A lawyer may not be required. Again, they will be a key person on your team. If you're a corporation, you basically should budget and plan for a yearly meeting with an accountant and a lawyer. Very, very important. Insurance, we will be talking about during our operations segment with Lisa Isaac. Even if you're working at a computer at home, you need some form of insurance. It might not be fire and theft, but maybe you need something like business interruption insurance, for example. Business interruption insurance could be used if somebody breaks into your place of business and you have to shut down for 2 days because your POS system was smashed from the thieves that tried to get into it. Talk to an insurance person, make sure they are a commercial insurance specialist. Again, I will be having a guest speaker come in and talk about what forms of insurance a business should consider. And of course, a bank. Now, if you are the winner of the SLBDC finale event, then a bank, it's imperative that you have a bank account established with Southwest Credit Union, which is one of our sponsors, and that is provided as part of the prize package. How did the business idea come to you? Be as organic as possible. Does this idea solve some form of fundamental consumer want or need? And guys, this is a question we'll be answering for the next 3 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks, I would say, right into Martin Vrolik's marketing session. We will be talking about customer profiling and customer wants or needs. It's interesting. I've had 2 clients over the last month that I've given just this task to. Who is your customer? What do they look like? And they thought they had a good idea of it. One client is now overhauling their whole website design and everything because they thought they knew their customer and they're like, no, this is not where my customer is or what they look like. And just by refining that, we'll bring in more sales. It will attract more attention. And I'm not saying I'm attracting for my business men and women that are between the ages of 18 and 90, and they're 4'2" to 6'7". No. We need something more refined, more specific, and I will have some questions that kind of foster that in a little bit. Why hasn't anyone tried this before? Do you or your partner have the skills to take advantage of the opportunity? Why hasn't anyone tried this concept? If anyone has, what happened to them? Also look at non-competing businesses. If there was failures, what did they do? Learn from them, guys. Another thing that I encourage my students at Lambton College as well to do is keep an eye on current events, regardless of whether they're happening on Canadian or Ontario soil. For example, I had a client once looking to establish a outdoor water park here in Sarnia. And in the summer, there was an incident that happened in the UK. As soon as I saw that, brought to this person's attention, hey, I know it doesn't happen here, but we do have a common law system that's built on the British system. These are things that you need to keep in mind and be able to respond to. There was an incident, I can't remember the airline that went into French Alps. It was an Austrian airline that went into the side of the mountain for the French Alps. One of the co-pilots had locked the other co-pilot out of the cockpit and taken the whole plane into the mountainside. He was suffering from some mental health issues. Canadian Airways did not even wait 48 hours to implement new legislation and regulations in the industry to say, hey, that is not happening here. So If you see something that's happening outside, watch the news, read the news, get accustomed with getting into that, because being proactive is one of your skills as an entrepreneur that will help foster your business. What does your customer look like? What are you going to be looking at? You're going to be looking at specific criteria of your customer. What age are they? Are they male or female? Do they have children? Are they married? Where do they live? Do they own their own home? Are they pet owners? What is their level of education? Now, guys, if you're doing a business to business, this might look different. It might be, what is the age of the business? How many employees do they have? What is their specialties? Who are their key suppliers? So you can modify this depending on what your customer looks like. Behavior, what are they searching for? Do they visit specific websites frequently? Are they active on social media? And if they are, what channels? What devices do they use? What times of day are they online? Where are they searching from? At home, in the office, commuting? The career. Are they employed? Do they work for a large company? What industry do they work in? What is their job function or role? What is their income? Life events. Are they getting married? Are they having a baby? Are they buying a new house? Are they looking for a career change? Are they retiring? Are they getting a new dog or a pet? What are their needs? What are their values? What keeps them up at night? Why do they buy certain products or solutions? What is their frequency of purchases? Are they in charge of the purchase making decision? So that is today's section for starting your business plan. Clear as mud, everyone?